this is also extremely important. I'm going to speed through a lot of other stuff. But I want to also mention a lot of stuff I talk about. I'm not just getting this from watching sports cards people. And I'm getting into other collectibles, comic books, looking at graded coins, currencies, other stuff like that. But also, I listen to certain people like Ray Dalio. He's one of the most successful investors of our time. He's worth, I believe, $22 billion. At one point, he made a bet in the 80s and lost pretty much everything and then built himself back up. Peter Turchin, who's a historian, the Great Age of Discord is his book. Another person is Peter Zion. He's big on geopolitics. Patrick McDavid. He's the guy who I believe bought the two Wayne Gretzky's for $500,000 total, $800,000 total, and sold it both for a total of $2 million, I believe. He's that guy. George Friedman, another person who's a geopolitical strategist and a consultant. Joshua S. Goldstein talks about long cycles and prosperity periods and war and how cycles continue to create. Chris Hedges is a journalist. Paul Tudor Jones is an institutional investor. I also looked at Gary Vee and Vegas Dave about what they think about sports cards and collectibles and everything throughout the years. And also I looked at Neil Howe, who talks about the fourth turning and how cycles in history repeat themselves and things such as that. And I looked at the broader macroeconomic situation and geopolitical situation, and then also looking at how possibly it's going to affect sports cards. But that's not here or there. What the focus for this is here is okay. So the focus is here for the sports card market. All right. 2016, 2017, 2018, we were here. Those people were getting in the market weren't here. Early, mid-summer 2019, even to the end of 2019, this is where we at. The smart money was coming in. Smart money, the stealth phase. There was a little bit of hype. But this was what was going in. These were the people who were getting in money. And these people who bought a bunch of cards especially are probably still up. They're probably still up. So even though the market has gone down, they're like, I'm chilling. It's cool, right? Because I bought LeBron James PSA 10 base card for $1,000 a piece, or $800, $900. No, for 7,000. That's tragic. But I bought a couple of them. I'm still up, and I think it can go up, right? Giannis, buying Giannis base for $400 or $500. They're good. They're good. PSA 10, BGS 10 maybe for $1,000. They're good. They're doing well. Then I think things probably start to take off around February when a dual LeBron James Michael Jordan card 2003, very rare. I believe BGS 8.5 or 9 sold for about $900,000. And Gary Vee was like, I told you to invest in sports cards. You didn't listen. You're going to regret this, blah, 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 blah. And then that hype, and people were like, what? A card sold for $900,000 and a basketball card? At the time, it was kind of rare. Baseball, vintage baseball, sure. But basketball, it's like, and it's a modern card. It's like, oh, okay. So people started running in, and you saw certain things where Giannis was slowly going up $700, $800, $900 to then it jumped to $1,500, $1,600. And I had two PSA 10s I got for $700 and $800 a piece. One was $645 and one was like $750 or something I bought for PSA 10. And I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. And then beginning of February, mid-February, I believe COVID lockdowns happened and things started to tank, unless it was PWCC. That took a little longer, probably because of shield bidding. But anyway, so you did kind of have a sell-off, and then things slowly got back. So that happened with the Last Dance and other things. And you start getting into this awareness phase here. This is the awareness phase where people start getting into sports cards. They're like, I want to buy stuff. I'm sitting at home, blah, 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 blah. I need something. Other stuff was going up. I literally sold someone a bottle of hand sanitizer for $100. People were like asking me for toilet paper. They want to sell me toilet paper. People wanted video games, exercise weights, gyms were closed. Those were selling, all that stuff was selling at a premium. So if you were into the exercise weight business, you were making money. I knew some people who were selling, they dumbbells, and they were like, they're selling for how much? $500 for some dumbbells? I'll pay $100 for shipping. Like, this is the stuff that was happening. I remember I heard video games was going crazy, and I went to go buy some DS games because I saw they were like selling for like 2 to 5x on eBay. But they were like all sold out across North America, which was like, what? They were always stocked up, but then it happened with sports cards with The Last Dance, Michael Jordan first. You started speculating Pippen, Rodman, John Stockton, Karl Malone, and then all vintage. And then people were thinking about all other documentaries, Mark McGuire documentary, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. And then like a PSA 6, I believe Julius Erving went to $2,000. Don't worry, I'm rambling, but I'm gonna get through this, and this is extremely important. But it's like, it's like, man, I should have bought this vintage stuff. I remember it was like a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar PSA 5, 1969 Topps card. I was gonna buy a PSA 5, but I chose the Julius Erving, and I sold Julius Erving and almost doubled. And then it exploded, and I was like, dang, I made money. Like, I could have made so much more money, and I didn't. But it was still good to sell because it kind of went back down to what it is now. But that stuff was happening, and then the season was starting, and I was getting into soccer, and I was buying up a bunch of parallel soccer, and I started getting stuff back. So it was like buying raw soccer cards so I can send in for grading, because a lot of that stuff, rare stuff, was also people were getting that awareness favors of different stuff like soccer and other sports, and people started speculating maybe tennis has cards and golf has cards, and then you had these membership services, and they were kind of moving the market. All right, so things were getting hot and getting insane. Giannis 2013 PSA 10 card, I believe it got to $7,000 or $8,000 on eBay in auctions. I believe Patrick Mahomes got around to $12,000. Just insanity. And I remember when Patrick Mahomes won the Super Bowl, and his highest one went for PSA 10 2017 Panini Prism, went for $1,925. Okay, $1,925. And I was like, he just won the Super Bowl. If you buy this at this price, you're a freaking idiot. I know he has an MVP. I know he has a championship now, but you're an idiot if you're buying it at the top of the mark. He just won. These people, and I was waiting because I was like, listen to Sports Card Investor. It's like, oh, every year, guys like this, it happens, and they go back down to $600 because I was going to buy it during the playoffs, $600, whatever. One of my first times buying cards, I never spent $600 for a card. So I was just like, that's way too much for a card. I wasn't really sure. It was a lot of money. I was like, I can buy multiple other cards and it can go up, and whatever. What if he gets hurt, or what if it doesn't work out? What if he lose Super Bowl? Anyway. And I was like, I'm gonna wait till it gets around $800. It didn't get back to $800. It was getting there. It was like $1,000, maybe $900, and then it exploded. Because people were getting in and buying stuff up. Now, some cards, because you're going to see this, some cards didn't return back to here. So there was the first sell-off on August 2020, and that's basically when the NBA players were like, during the bubble championship for the Lakers, they were like, screw this. There was a lot of political things. African Americans, particularly males, were getting shot and killed, and LeBron James and other NBA players were like, something needs to be done about this, and we have influence and power. So we're just not going to play until like some of our owners who are wealthy and powerful try to do something to help invest in these communities, prevent these from happening. I'm gonna be honest with you. No one talks about this. People got pissed. People got pissed about LeBron James because they're like, yo, I got all this money on you to win this championship and all this stuff. And then you're just going to quit on the season? Like what? Right? Like you got 3 championships, you got a chance to get 4th, and you have a chance to, you know, maybe catch Michael Jordan, and you're not what? And a lot of people don't. A lot of these people who sold off his cards were Republicans or a different political belief, and they just didn't agree with certain things and political beliefs, and they just wanted him to focus on basketball. Maybe he wants to do it on an off season. Maybe he wants to do it after he retires. Great. They're happy with it, but they want him to only focus on basketball, and that turned a lot of people off. So his cards went down, and people really weren't buying LeBron like that. But so then this is called a bear trap. And things went down, but overall the market starts going back up, and you start getting this mania phase, partly because of Gary Vee trying to get more people into it. I think he was probably honest intentions trying to help out people who got in here, right? He wanted them to have great returns, and he wanted to have great returns too eventually when he wants to sell. And media attention came in, card shops, you know, people are getting into this, and cards were selling for millions of dollars and things such as that. And then at around this time, institutional investors, Rally, Collectible, Otis, whatever, Dibs, you started seeing NFT, like I was hearing about NFT projects around this time and stuff like that. You know, Top Shot, stuff like that. So media starts doing stories, cards reaching all-time highs, you know, stuff like this starts happening. And this is more so getting more so into December, January, February, even March, and some for the ultra high end, you know, throughout 2021, where media attention going crazy about stuff, and all through 2020, especially Last Dance and some of Jordan's cards selling for over $100,000, and LeBron card selling for $1 million, Luka's card selling for around $1 million or $4 million or something like that. Enthusiasm, people got enthusiastic, and it enters the public's consciousness. We call this the dumb money. The public is the dumb money, so the dumb money starts coming in. So the smart money people are selling to the dumb money people. And if you're buying, you're not dumb, but it's just like you don't have as much experience as these people who have been buying for a while, and they bought at such a low, depressed prices. And then, you know, greed happens, and people will say, oh, buy LeBron James 2003 Topps Chrome PSA 10. It's going to go to $100,000, even more. And it's like, literally a year and a half ago, that card was like $1,000, maybe $900 or $800. And no one wanted to buy it because they were just like, bro, that's so much money. That's ridiculous. That's beyond comprehension. What? For that card? No, that's crazy. And then all of a sudden it goes to, it's probably overpriced at $1,000 to $100,000 may be a deal. And it's like, markets don't work that way. There are a few people who bought 10 of those for $1,000 piece, spent $10,000. And if they, you go from $10,000 to $1 million in 2 years, that's unheard of in investing. That's like, whoa, you just put $10,000 on something, it goes to, I mean, same for soccer, $4,000 for Messi, main rookie, or Cristiano Ronaldo. Now it's $300,000. What? Ridiculous. You add two extra zeros to your net worth, and then you get a new paradigm. You get greed, delusion. Oh my gosh, were people delusional? Matter of fact, another card. I'm gonna get through this, but another card. Guess what? Guess what? 1987 Fleer, Michael Jordan. Guess how much it cost? I remember looking at it in 2000, beginning of 2020, $1,000, and that was probably a bit high. I probably could have negotiated to get it for $950, $900 from the person. It was on eBay. It was listed. I didn't buy it because I was like, man, $1,000 is for a card. Now I'll spend $1,000 for a card. But before I was like, I don't know, it's risky. Thinking about it, but it's a lot of money for one card. During this boom here, that card sold for $82,000. You 82 extra money. That's crazy. It's not even a year. In a year, you 82 extra. What? So stuff like this happens. It's March 2021, February 2021. It varies depending on what cars in the market. All right. But then it drops, and then you have denial. And you're like, what's going on? And you have this bull trap. You're right at the bear trap. Now you have the bull trap. And things kind of went down for like a year. For a year. And this is the mania phase, right? And this is where the mean shit, these were prices where they should have been. This is where prices should have been. And they're up here. Then what happens? It starts building back up. And we start seeing this end of 2021, starting in 2022, start seeing this. And I don't think it's just like a dramatic drop. I think it's going to slowly go down. And I think now we're in here. I don't think we hit fear yet and capitulation, but I think we're on our way there. And then you're going to get all the way down here. It's going to overcorrect. People think we're here. For whatever reason, people think we're here. I like the optimism. I'm optimistic about the sports car market, but we're not here yet. I'm going to tell you why in a second. And then despair. People have a lot of despair, and a lot of cards may actually drop below. Not all. There's some will never reach what they were in 2019 or 2018 or 2017, but some may drop below the stealth phase. And during these phases here, they may drop severely below what this was here at the bottom, and severely below here. And you'll be like, whoa, it just dropped to 2019 prices. I should have just sold it, waited, and bought it back. Okay. Next. So I believe the market will crash in the next 6 to 24 months. And with tools I'm going to present to you today, you'll be able to capitalize on the chaos and possibly make millions. Quotes in this: if you buy the wrong thing, you won't make millions. Like, if you don't do your research, you won't make millions. Whether you're going to make millions, you're more likely to add an extra zero or a couple zeros to your net wealth. That may make you a millionaire. Who knows? But I do think in the next 6 to 12, 24 months, the sports card market will reach its bottom. Let's just say that. And a lot of collectibles will. Probably most collectibles. So I think you need to think about this. This is not particular investment advice, but I think it's something you need to keep in mind. All right. So somebody asked Elon Musk, do you think it's approaching a recession? He's like, yes, but this is actually a good thing. It's been raining money on fools for too long. Some bankruptcies need to happen. Money rain on fools for too long. I mean, people are spending so much money on NTRPAs, whether it's basketball or football. Even and in some cases, people are trying to do this for baseball. They're not really NT. People don't really care about NTRPAs for baseball. They're not licensed for Panini. Or other situations. So keep that in mind. So You should be concerned about a market crash. 75% of Fortune 500 CEOs says this month that they're bracing for a recession. It's an anticipation game. And what are you going to do to prepare? I think people need to be preparing for this. All right. So what is a market crash? What is a recession? This kind of goes by stock definitions, but I think it's similar to other kind of investment assets, and particularly sports cards. And I want to focus more on sports cards today. But a recession is a period of temporary economic decline during which trade and industry activity are reduced, generally identified by a fall in GDP in 2 successive quarters. So technically now we're in a recession. Stock market crash is a sudden dramatic decline of stock prices across a major section of a stock market, resulting in significant losses of paper wealth. Crashes are driven by panic selling and underlying economic factors. They often follow speculation and economic bubbles. You can say some similar things. I know it's not exactly the same. There's obviously differences, and obviously stocks are actually way more liquid than cards, and cards are way more riskier than stocks, especially S&P 500 stock. But economic bubbles, or there was a bubble in the sports card market seen here. That's called a bubble. All right. So what happens during a recession? Companies go out of business. So you're going to start seeing this. You're going to see a lot of these sports card heroes and gurus and all this other stuff going to close up shop. You're going to see a lot of sports card shops closing up. They're not going to be able to handle, because their demand and their expectations was when it was up here. And now it's going to go down. Employees start letting go of people. We starting to see it, but it's not really affecting people. And even if people get let go, they're like, oh, I'll just find another job. And some people will. But I'm looking for when we're in a recession and unemployment is 10% or worse, or close to 10% or worse. Then we kind of know, like, there's going to be a lot of people, I'll get into it in a second, but just less money in people's pockets. They got a penny pinch. They got to dip into savings. Maybe they got to use their credit cards more and things such as that. And a lot of luxuries, and they start dipping back on card buying. Maybe they spend $5,000 a year. Now they spend $50 a year or $100 a year on cards. Maybe they still collect and they're in the market, but it's dramatically decreased. Someone's paying $50,000 only spends $500 a year. Borrowing money becomes harder. A lot of people, borrow money to get into sports cards because they see it's going up crazy. Bad idea, super risky and speculative. Maybe people want to be breakers, borrowing money so they can buy massive amount of inventory. That becomes real hard. And depending on what kind of debt that you have, or credit card debt, whatever, you may have to pay it back faster with rising interest rates. Consumer spending decreases and the stock market goes down. We kind of starting to see this. We're starting to see consumer market, and instead of stocks, we can think about cards, other assets, or whatever. I was talking with a friend who got into other kind of collectibles and plants. Apparently, there were some plants that were selling a pair for $5,000, maybe $50,000, that now sell for $50. Plant markets crash too. So it's not just, obviously it's not just sports cars going down. You know, if you're a plant investor, maybe it hold. Why recessions are a good thing? Bad companies go out of business, room for new companies start to grow, and starts a decade or so of growth. And then there's no more overpriced talent. This other issue, a lot of people working in these jobs and they're buying cards and stuff, they're getting paid too much than what the freak they are worth. Just because, yeah, it's like, you know, you can just go to another company and maybe getting paid $100,000. I think there's gonna be some cutbacks on that, and that person who whatever during COVID or whatever, can finesse their way into getting more money. May have to take some pay cuts if they want to keep their job. They may have to go from 100,000 to 50,000. And how bad will things get? Things, keep in mind, all this money printing has created fake success. I'm sure Sasha T and people like that are very successful and entrepreneur and things like that, saved up money and got in early and things such as that. But a lot of that stuff that you saw was fake, 100% fake. And a lot of these people are showing off all these fancy cards and all this stuff, and $90,000, $100,000 cards, and they're just dropping all this money on cards and other collectibles, comic books, pop culture cards, Star Wars, Marvel, all that stuff. It's fake. In the last couple years, so 2020, what you saw in 20, really from October, November of 2019 until April, May of this year, forget about it. Forget it happened. Most of you be better off forgetting that it happened, because many people think the exact same thing is going to happen a year or 2 years from now when Fanatics comes in. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think that's going to happen. I might be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but my intuition is saying no. And I've only been in sports cars for 3 years. Okay. People been in there, but I've been studying, I've been watching people, I've been in the Discords, I've been talking to people, and I only really started making content recently. So I understand this. A lot of fake success. Printing money goes around, and people think, oh, well, what happens is when Fanatics comes in, it's gonna be all these new people coming in around the world, and they're gonna spend thousands of dollars on cards. The probability of that is low. I'm not saying it's impossible, but the probability is low. And also, most people don't think that way. Maybe people get cards, maybe more modern kind of stuff. And I think the flip game is going to be hard, because they're going to be, I don't think they care about the secondary market the way most people do. I think they're going to overprint and manipulate things and have a lot of different chase cards that may be valuable in the short term, but in the long term won't be worth anything. And a lot of people are going to be mad holding the bag, and they're going to be pissed off, and you get burned enough and hard enough, you may not come back. And they may start warning other people to stay away as well. And that may create years of stagnation in the sports card market. Just saying. It's very possible. It's possible to happen to Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic the Gathering, comic books, all this stuff. Stuff has been going up for a while now. Been going up for a while, but fake success. All these people look up to, you're gonna have that issue. Political uncertainty, midterms, war in Ukraine. I'm gonna talk about this in geopolitical terms. Basically, the war in Ukraine is gonna create one of the largest famines that we've seen in a very long time. And within the next 10 years, probably 1 billion people are going to die. I'm not coming out of my butt. You can ask Peter Zion, George Friedman have talked about this. They talk about this, the All In podcast as well. That's going to happen. Inflation's happening now. Also, small businesses haven't overcome COVID, and will now face a much bigger challenge. The economic expansion after 2020 was pumped up by fake success. The sports car market, a lot of it's pumped up by fake success. And they're like, oh, it's organic. 2019 was organic. 2018, really from 2015 to 2019, most of that was organic. There's some stuff that was pumped up. There's some stuff in January 2020 was organic. Even in February 2020 was organic. Just the amount of money printing, and it's not just the United States, it's all over the world. I'm gonna get into that in a second. All right, I need to get through this really quickly. The double spiral of well-being of elite overproduction, popular well-being of people in the United States, structural demographic trends. I look at demographics. Demographics are really important. How many people are going to get into sports cards matters. How many young people are going to be out there? Is it going to be less or more? It matters. Demographics matters, because who you're going to be selling the cards to. What's your demographic of people who want that card that you own, that you're going to sell to for profit? You need to know your audience. And then elite overproduction. A lot of this have to do with like wealth gaps increasing. I'll get in this for a second. I believe it's from Peter Turchin. And also Joshua S. Goldstein. So what this is basically about, every beginning of the century, you have major wars. You kind of have a global empire leader. In the past, Portugal, challenged by Spain, Netherlands by France, Great Britain by France, Britain by Germany, United States by Russia, and wars kind of start. Well, why is that important? I care about sports cards. Listen, as we saw with Ukraine and Russia, since the start of war, gas prices have gone up. That's affect people's money a little bit. Also, that has helped increase food prices as well. Yeah, printing money, but also this war has done this as well. And then as we see over time how inflation increases, and we're in this process since the 20th century, from really 1896 to present, you have higher inflation, going insane in a sense. And now we are up here. More on that. Global money supplies have been increasing. Everybody's been printing money. People talking about United States printing money. United States here. This is China. The Chinese market also is making a lot of money. They're making a lot. They're just printing a bunch of money. And they're buying cards too. They're about to buy a lot less. I remember I was buying from a lot of people in 2020. I remember Gary Vee talking about 2018, 19, and a little bit of 2020 about people from China buying cards. They were buying up Messi, Ronaldo, some Mbappe, LeBron, Kobe, Jordan cards. And if you looked at a lot of cards I was selling, a lot of them were coming from China. There's some nice Luka cards, nice cards coming from China. Things are getting more expensive here. Things are getting more expensive. Hospital services, college and tuition, college textbooks. So if you're a student, like it was Shia, whatever, he's with Sasha, and some of the other people who are in California, whatever. Yo, you kind of college and tuition fees going up, college textbooks. So some of these kids who are flipping and stuff, they're like taking that money out of the market and paying for college, going to college, for example. Not everybody's trying to be selling sports cards full time. Child care, nursery, medical care, average hourly earnings ain't keeping up. It used to be down here and it was maybe competitive, but it's not keeping up with that stuff. Household foods and beverages, that stuff's starting to come up. So expenses are starting to come up. You also have this tracking yuan index, dollar index. Chinese dollar is currencies going down over time. They're overprinting stuff. China has crazy bubbles, and this is the reason why I talk about China is because there's some challenges there, and I think people aren't as rosy eyes because they talk about international people coming in specifically for China, and people aren't really looking at like, yeah, a lot of these people who are buying cards now and in the past may not be able to buy cards in the future because there are going to be a lot of economic situations and crashes happening, and this bubble is insane. Okay, especially for this is real estate in China. This is not normal. This is artificial. There's some corruption. There's other things in here. You're seeing this in Sri Lanka. I have a friend here at Yale who's in Sri Lanka, from Sri Lanka. They're going to be starting neuroscience, whatever. This is what happened to their reserves. Their countries in economic turmoil. Because I know some people from Sri Lanka who are gotten into cards. And things are starting to get tough. And that becomes less of a possibility because you also have not only economic issues, but you have actual conflicts. Food exporters. Russia's the biggest food exporter. Ukraine is number 5. All right. Why is this important? Because they're not exporting food to most countries anymore. Ukraine, not at all. Russia, maybe a little bit to China if they can. Some of the ports are blocked. So this creates famine. When this creates famine, what happens is the best way I can put it is basically when you have started to have famines around the world, United States will be fine. Nobody started but death. A lot of second, third world countries are screwed. And that prevents them from coming into the market and putting money into the market. And also it hurts some other first world countries as well. But you're going to have more wars and conflicts just because, let's say the Arab Spring in the Middle East, food prices tripled. And that's what caused the Arab Spring, and just a lot of disruption in governments and fighting and toppling governments. All right. You're going to see that even more because most of these countries are going to be lucky if food prices triple. And that's going to create either civil war, or you're going to have dictators come over if they're not dictators already in power, and they're going to try to invade other countries to get food and other resources, and to try to turn the heat and the anger and the fear onto somebody else so it doesn't come at them. Food insecurity, red and orange and yellow are most food insecure countries. Mexico will be fine because United States and Canada help them out. And some of these countries here may be fine just because of Brazil and Argentina. Australia, Russia, they got their own issues going on. But a lot of these countries here, and even China is in danger of losing food. Like, I think famines are really bad, and I think this is really understated, and people aren't really thinking about this. Food prices are going to continue to go up in America for some years, but these things are going to be very hard to overcome. Food's world top exporters. United States is fine. We export a lot of food. We'll be fine. Countries like Brazil will be okay. I did buy some sports cars from people from Brazil, and I want to say it was like a weird country like Honduras or somewhere. It was a South American country. Netherlands, Germany may limp along. They got some economic issues. There are demographic issues as well. Aging countries. Most of these countries we talk about people from other countries coming in, especially from Europe. They're having declining aging in a sense, where or really increased aging, but they're starting to have declining populations in a sense. So we think about the next generation 20, 30, 40 years, because they're going to be the ones that are going to be trying to buy it a lot of times, but it's going to be a lot less of them. It's going to be a lot less 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds 20, 30, 40 years from now. Less people in the world. So you may end up having less people, less money trying to get into these things. So just keep that in mind. And also with demographic crises, where you have a bunch of old people, not that many young people, you really have destabilization of the economy. We see the rise and fall of the dollar. In the past, the dollar was very strong, and it's getting weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. So your buying power with the dollars that you have will go down. So that means you're going to be able to afford less stuff. How recessions happen? When people realize the difference the money gets. When people realize the difference the money gets erased when people understand the real economy isn't going to pay back their bets. Here's the difference here. There's capital, and here's the real economy. People become pessimistic, and what happens is these things affect stocks, real estate, metals, stuff like that, and then they start hurting collectibles. There's a disconnection between productivity that's going on and hourly wages of workers. You're starting to see increased wealth gaps. When you see increased wealth gaps, you see more conflict in countries, where in the United States you will see more conflict, but also you're going to see more conflict around the world. An example of like how the economy is so complex and things like that, and how it, you know, affects each other. You can, I kind of use groceries, but you can do with sports cars and other things. So your tailor buys groceries. So they spend money at the grocery store. You get money from working at the grocery store, or somebody buys groceries. And since, you know, money's coming into the grocery store, they're able to pay the workers and that are working at the grocery store, and they're able to basically go out and buy shoes made in Indonesia. But also the tailor who buys groceries, the grocery store is able to pay companies in a sense. I guess skip. Growth and productivity and hourly compensation. Since 1948, you're just seeing this, and you see other factors that are declining. Health is kind of increasing, but employment is decreasing. Real wages are decreasing. Things are really going down around the world. This is the biggest thing. Inflation is going crazy. It's still happening globally, but also in the United States. So I think this is, and it's going straight up. It's not like, you know, like this is going straight up. That's going to affect negative things. I mean, you can look at this, you can pause this and look at it if you want, but just Great Recession by the numbers. And US interest rates. This is probably even more important here. So US interest rates, federal fund rates here. If you look at around 2009, actually let's move back here. If you look at the sports card market, the interest rates were kind of going up and going high, probably around to 1988, 89. Yes, there was organic demand and things like that growing in the sports card market, but the interest rates started going down and people were going crazy for sports cards. So around 93, 94, interest rates started going back up again. And you start to see decline in the sports card market, and it crashed. That's what happened then. I'm sure during this time and other times where when interest rates were low, you probably had in the 70s, you probably had people wanting to buy cards in the 70s and maybe comic books as well. But you see this, they go up and they start going down, and they've been pretty low since the financial crash, and stimulus and things such as that. And that's been propping up the system. You see interest rates. This is in China, how much debt they're getting into, which is insane, printing money, trying to service this. This is artificial inflated. You look at debt held by the federal government. I mean, it's past World War II. You're eventually gonna have to try to pay that back. So people think, oh, well, they can just keep printing money. Our debt can go to infinity. It doesn't matter. But these are economic ramifications. And I don't think people are going to be like, I need to buy sports cards because, you know, the money that I have may be worthless. May not be the best thing. We see the debt breakdown here. Non-financial corporates, government, financial sector, households, and it's really non-financial corporates. This is local currency and also in foreign currency. And this is China's debt to GDP ratio, which isn't good. And this is all really just to show you like, hey, China has a lot of economic issues, not just the United States. And these are probably the two biggest economies in the world. And when there's a crash and a recession with these two countries, that may lead to a depression around the world. The amount of debt, you don't want this. You don't want this. Housing bubble. And this has like an effect where things collapse and there's not much you can really do about that. Inequality has increased. You're seeing this in the United States versus Europe and Western Europe. That leads to conflict. That leads to crazy political drama. And I think when conflict is happening, possibly a civil war, you start having serious issues that's going to affect. So why recessions are a good time to start your business. And these are some of the solutions I think people should do to prepare themselves and actually gain money. I think people need to build themselves up, work hard, maybe get multiple jobs, save up money, invest maybe in other safer assets, or just save their money, and then do things that create value. So there is less competition, all in mentality, have access to you're going all in. You got to work as hard as you possibly can and work to be able to survive. You do have access to talent because most people aren't hiring, and you can get talented people for cheap. Talent is priced at the real market value or under market value. So you get cheap workers who are going to work hard and be very productive, and better rates for rent or vendors because they're trying to get people to stay there. Here are 8 steps to prepare for the market crash. Anticipation, be prepared, like just understand that this is likely going to happen. Having risk tolerance, understanding how much you want in risky versus non-risky assets. Carrying cash is king. You want to have a bunch of cash saved up so you can buy stuff. Avoid major real estate deals. Have a serious business plan in place if you're going to be starting a business. Kind of rule of mine, maybe you want to have 5% of your wealth in precious metals, and protect your career. Work your butt off, making sure you're indispensable so you keep your job, and take time out and study your portfolio. 10 steps to make millions during a market crash. Monetize fear. You know, basically when people are being fearful, you should be greedy. I don't think people are fearful yet. The lazy, arrogant, and over leveraged will be filtered out. There are a lot of, it's in all asset classes, but especially in sports cards, there are people who are very lazy and they just think they buy whatever and it's supposed to go up. Doesn't work that way. There are people very arrogant. They think they're so smart, they can outsmart everybody and they know everything. No. And don't be over leveraged. Don't be, if everything goes to zero, are you going to be in debt because of cards or collectibles? Are you going to be in debt because of stuff like that? Are you still going to be able to pay your bills? Are you still going to still have the normal life that you want to have? Become bankable. Really just practice what you preach. Strengthens numbers, build a team, have a community around you, create a cause for a company can rally behind. Cut the fat, cut out expenses, cut out things, activities and things that aren't going to grow you, improve you. Find people who are going to run with you and kind of basically be your teammate, maybe part of your Justice League or Avengers or whatever. Double down on positive distractions. Equip your team with all possible audibles and increase your level of urgency. You got to be urgent and you really have to be going through this. That's pretty much everything. I do think a lot of people are going to get burned. I think there are going to be a few things that'll go up, but I think you're playing like a needle in the haystack. And I think a lot of people need to understand what most people are doing. If you're buying a player that's playing right now, you're basically gambling because you believe that you're buying it when there's not much hype and you're trying to sell off the hype and trying to flip and keep flipping to make a bunch of money. Eventually, those who are super successful put their money in something else safer. If you don't, eventually, you're going to be a fool because one day you're going to put your money in stuff and things are going to go down and it'll never return. And I think this recession and a lot of not only economic issues, but I think political conflicts internally and externally is going to change people's mindsets. But yeah, that's the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Hopefully I didn't talk your head off.